Alright, today is December 10. It's Sunday. I got back from Barcelona yesterday, and I'm really bad at vlogging apparently, but I have a lot of pictures from Barcelona, so I'm going to show you those during the whole duration of this video. But what I want to talk about today is... what do I want to talk about? So what I want to talk about this week, I guess, is two main things. One is how crazy life is, and second is like something I've noticed about Europe. And so first of all, I went to Barcelona for 10 euros one way, so it's like 20 euros round trip, and then my hostel there was like 75 bucks, and so like my whole trip was maybe like 120 euros, or like maybe 150 euros, and to be like somewhere I've never been before for a whole week. I mean, that's crazy. That's 2017, you know? I think it's crazy how not a lot of people do that. Like, not a lot of people just hop on a flight because they can, and then check out something because they can. And I think that's a shame. I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's the best thing that happened in the 21st century so far, is that like everything becomes so much more accessible. Even like, you know, I don't like to talk about this, but I got the iPhone 10, right? And like so many people complain about it, like, oh, it's $1,000 and this and this and that. But if you talk about this technology and you talked about it 10 years ago, people were like, holy crap, we're never going to be able to afford that, right? Like, we come from a time that computers were bigger than this house, you know? And I don't know, I think that's stuff to think about. Like, there's so much we can do. Like, I know more people outside of Belgium than I know in Belgium, for sure. Like, I know more people on the other side of the ocean than I know here. And I think that's crazy, you know? I'm 19, that's fucking amazing. The second part is, like, about Europe, just something I noticed. And, like, the more I travel in Europe, the more I think it's Europe in general and not just Belgium, is that I'm starting to notice why I want to move to the US in a more, like, let's say, practical way. And like one of these things is that everyone cares about different things, right? Some people care about family, some people care about having their own house, some people care about their job, some people care about their kids, some people care about their, I don't know, their car, I don't know. Like, everyone cares about different things. Like, somebody cares about animals, somebody cares about nature, other people care about cities, you know? And everyone is different in that way. But what I think is one big reason that I feel home in the US and not here is that the things I care about are way more evolved in the US. And so those things are like business, their marketing, their technology, and it's just not here. Like, it blows my mind. Like, I have the Google Home, right? Like, okay, Google, what time is it?
It's 7:12.
And like, I have the Google Home, and it's not even available in Europe. It's just not. It's not available. Like, in Belgium, we don't have Amazon. I mean, those things are crazy to me. It's like, we all know that that's where the world is going. Like, whether you like it or not is irrelevant. Like, that's where the world is going. And in Europe, we don't even have the chance to like experiment with it and see what it is and like evolve on that and work on that, right? And I think that's crazy. Like, how can we do that as a society? Like, but yeah, that's just me. And so I think it's way easier for me and everyone around me for me to move to the US than it is to try to change something here. I think that just makes more sense, right? And yeah, like the iPhone 10, right? It's not available in Belgium and France. It's just not. I mean, that's crazy, right? Um, and it's not like those things are important or they're like, oh my God, how can we live without them? It's just that I'm very interested in the future, or like even in the present, like what's happening, and like how can we work on what's already there. And like, I feel like Europe is not in it, you know?
Attention spans, there's a lot of conversations around this. First of all, it's old talk audacity. We love to say new people are not as good as us because we're getting older and closer to the end, and it's our defense, right? We love to talk about the millennials' entitlement. 90% of the people I know that I grew up with in their 40s were lazy and entitled too.
That's just Americans though, right?
You know, it's funny, there's a lot of truth to that, right? But that's a hell of a lot better than Europeans who aren't even in the game.
And I thought there was so much truth in that, you know, and it kind of hurt how true that was. This morning I was watching a video. I'm also going to link that below because it was really interesting. It is called, let me see real quick. It's from this guy called Tech Ulcer. I'd never heard of him. And he made a video how Europe lost its tech companies, right? Because if you think about it, we had Philips that made TVs, right? There was the only TVs in the world. We had Nokia, which was like the only cell phone in the world. And like they all disappeared. Like what happened, right? And he broke it down into 5 main categories. And let's say 3 of them I really agree with. By the way, this guy is Bulgarian or Hungarian, I'm not sure. So he is a European. He's not like, oh, they're over there, they suck. Like these are his 5 pillars, right? Let's just say 3 of them I really agree with. One is legislation or regulation. It's crazy in Europe. Like I just don't get it. Like we overregulated everything, which is normal. Like we came from a war 60 years ago, right? And then they tried to overregulate everything so it wouldn't happen again, which makes sense. But the other side of that is that it's really hard to try something new here. Like I'm speaking from experience. Like I had a tiny house business, which is a new product in Europe. Like even though other people are working on it, of course, in other countries, it's still a very new thing. And meanwhile, in the US, they have whole villages with tiny houses. And here in Europe, legislation was super hard because it's like combining housing with transportation, and that's just something that's not possible here. And like I still get emails every week. I'm not kidding. Every week with like, how do I legally live in a tiny house? And I'm just like, it's not possible. It's not a thing. And that comes back to so many different like I got frustrated by that in so many different ways. Like the Google Home, right? It's not available in Europe because of privacy laws. And you could make the argument like, yeah, they're right. Like, why is Google listening to us? Blah blah. But again, like that's irrelevant. We know the world is going that way, so it would make a whole lot of sense to like try and experiment with it and like try and figure out what it is and then work from there, right? And then actually do something with it instead of like being scared of it or being against it or whatever, because it doesn't matter. So anyway, that's legislation. Really believe in that. The second one is startup ecosystems. I just think that there's not a lot of drive to have a startup community here. And he also compared it to like Silicon Valley, and there's one in Asia, I forgot, which makes me feel really stupid. But they have like these centralized areas of innovation and technology and probably other things. Like when I talk about US cities, I tell people that the difference with European and American cities is that every city in America has his core, let's say, economy, right? Or like its core interests. In New York, that's business, that's marketing, that's, I mean, artists in Brooklyn, right? In LA, that's movies, that's fashion. In San Francisco, it's technology. And so like every city has its own like main industry, right? We in Europe don't have that. And I think it's a really important thing to, when you start a business, to be in an environment where other people are trying the same thing. And I mean, I just think that's really valuable, and that's something we don't have in Europe. And then his third point he made is attitude. And it's not really measurable, but I totally agree with him, is that in Europe, we're very negative about technology. Like he uses the example of technology, right? So I want to stay within that to not make things more complicated. But like we as Europeans are really, we have this like we'll see attitude, right? So like in the US, they had Alexa for the last 2 years, and we don't even have Amazon, right? And so we're like just waiting it out until it like plays out and it becomes something. But then if we start with it when it's already established in the US, then we're behind, right? And so I feel like that happens on a lot of I feel like that happens in a lot of industries in Europe, and like we're just looking at what's happening on the other side of the ocean and in Asia, of course, and then we wait until it pays out, if it pays off, and then we take over, right? Same with Uber. Like Uber is just the future. There's nothing you could do about it. It just makes so much sense. And we're here, sitting here, like also the legislation part. Like it's not legal, and they don't have insurance, and this and that. And that's also an attitude thing. Like those are combined, right? It's okay, it's legislation, but it's also the attitude that like new things need to be perfect and all of that kind of stuff. Like I just think it's really interesting. So again, I'll link that video below. I really suggest you check it out. And yeah, I guess that's kind of it for this week. Next week, I'm gonna work a little bit. Like Tuesday and Wednesday, I'll be in Ghent, and I will be renovating the kitchen I did where we started on 2 weeks ago. We're gonna put in a ceiling and all that kind of stuff, so that's fun. And the rest of the week, I'm just gonna work for my social media business, and yeah. Oh, also, one more thing that happened last week while I was in Barcelona is I'm starting to make plans to go back to New York, which is probably gonna be like mid-January. And I got my visa for, I don't know if I can talk about this, but my visa application for Canada is going really well. So I should say that. And if I get that, I can stay there for 12 months. So that's like really close to being finished, which is nice. And, but yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on that. So I guess it's going to be it for this week. If you like this video, like it down below. And see you guys next week. All right, bye.